Hello everyone, it's Livia here, aka Story Minded, and I'm just going to do a really quick writing tag video. This tag is called Writing is Life tag, and it sounds quite similar, I think, to some of the other writing tags I've done before, but the questions are different. I saw this on JennaTheDarkOne's channel, so go check that out. It was a really fun tag to watch, and her responses are always so funny. In a good way. I mean, in a good way, like they're really humorous and they're really enjoyable to watch. I tag anyone who wants to do this tag. Let's get started. So the first question is, if you could magically make one of your work in progress be finished and ready for publication, which would you choose? At the moment, I'd just be happy for anything to be published, if I'm completely honest. I'm going over some of my older sort of one-shot, I guess you would call it, my like standalone sort of stories and stuff, because I enter a lot of writing competitions to build up my experience and everything, so any one of them would be lovely, but I'm sort of editing at the moment, so for one of my bigger projects I would have to say Human's Touch, because that's sort of the novel / novella, because I don't know what it's going to be yet, one that I'm trying to work on. And I have moments where I'm like really motivated to write and I really want to write, and then I don't have time. And then I'll sometimes go through phases at the moment where I do have the time to write, but I don't. So, you know, yeah, so I would have to say Human's Touch. Question 2. Who's your favourite character you have written and why? This one's really hard for me because obviously I've never completed like a novel or anything like that. So a lot of my characters I haven't really got the chance to know in depth, although obviously I do a lot of character building and stuff, but I'd have to say from one of my fanfiction pieces, Celeste is one of my favourite characters because she's so sassy, and it's nice to take a world that's already been created to sort of play with, and I do love Celeste. And Althea, who's another sort of character within that sort of fan fiction world. But from some of the other pieces I've written, I really enjoyed this unnamed lady. She doesn't have a name, but this mother in a sort of dark short story called Buried that I really want to go back over and edit it and stuff. And another character I would have to say Morgana from my short story collection that, once again, I probably need to completely redraft and edit it. But Morgana from Even Flowers Cry. I felt like that was probably one of the most powerful short stories I've ever written, so yeah, and I really love her character because she just has so much love and like the testimony she sort of gives about her grandmother and everything. I really liked her character. Oh, which leads perfectly onto this question. What was the most terrible thing you have done to a character? Well, in Buried, the unnamed lady, she's been through a lot of stuff, and one of them including, it's sort of alluded to, she ran over a girl by accident. She hit a girl in her car and then buried her in her back garden. And for Morgana, her baby, she has to give up her baby. It's set in like the Middle Ages, sort of medieval period, and she has to give up her son Lucius, which is heartbreaking. And when she was a child, she watched her grandmother Agatha be burnt at the stake because she was accused of being a witch. And then Morgana, in the sort of present time, in the sort of like it's sort of flipped. The story goes back and forth, and she is also associated with being a witch, which she isn't, and she has to give up her baby, which is very sad. So those are some of the terrible things I've done to characters. And in A Human's Touch, something terrible will happen, but it hasn't happened yet, but it will do, and it's going to be tragic. Number 4. What character or work are you most disappointed with or want to go back and rework? Probably the first novel I ever tried to write, Weeping Beneath the Willow Tree, when I was 13, but I was so obsessed with like historical fiction. I still love historical fiction to this day, but I just hit a point where I was like, I've been reading this genre of books for so long. I need to break away and look at something new, but I've still got all the outlines for it. It's probably one of the most planned outlines I've ever done, so I definitely have to go back and rework it. And I think I'm just disappointed with lots of my work, which is a really negative thing to say, but I think all writers go through those ups and downs, and sometimes I just get in a bit of a writing slump and I think, oh, what's the point? And like recently, once again, none of my writing's got anywhere in writing competitions, and it's like, oh, but I love writing, so I'm not going to stop. And I'm currently going to go back over old work, and I'm doing Shaylin. I saw this on Shaylin Wright's channel, and I think it's amazing. Don't know why I connected this in my own head, but using the comments tool on Word to like line edit, so I'm going to be doing that a lot. Number 5, pick a theme song for the main character of your current work in progress. In my A Human's Touch, there isn't really one that stands out, because there's sort of 3 of them that are technically like, they're like a package deal, they're sort of like the main characters. But I'm going to say Eden, who's one of the synthetic robots, who's Randy's sister. I guess if you wanted to pick a protagonist, it's technically Randy. And he lives with his obviously younger brother Zeno, and Eden. But for Eden, one of her songs, because when I was thinking of inspiration, I listened to quite a lot of songs, is Christina Perri's I'm Only Human. And I think that song just sort of relates to Eden, even though she isn't human, it's sort of that song relates to her. Or Reflection from Mulan, because that sort of is very true to what Eden's character used to be and everything. So those are some of the songs. Number 6. What is a trope or cliche you're embarrassed to say you've used? I like to think that my ideas are quite original. Sorry, just moving. I like to think that some of my actual story ideas are quite original, like people in the past have sort of said, oh, it's such an original idea and stuff like that. But I find a lot when I go back over my first drafts or drafts of writing, like I tend to sometimes fall into the trap of using quite cliche phrases, or like the way I describe something, I'm like, oh, that's been done millions of times in books, let's try and change this and make it more original. But that's quite a natural thing. That's probably one of the hardest things about writing, it's trying to be original. And sometimes if you use a cliche in a creative way, there's fun ways of getting around things. So question 7. A wizard tells you that if you stop writing forever, one of your other dreams will 100% come true right now. Would you do it? No, I can't imagine not writing. Like, I can't even, wow, I'd probably have more time, but you know, I just can't really imagine stopping. And I don't really, like, that is one of my main dreams, to become published, so, you know. What do you do when you're not writing? As I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I'm very lucky enough to have my own horse, so I often go down to see my mare Alaska, like I did this morning, which is why my hair is like this. I had a nice ride on her this morning, and just being around horses because I love them. Reading, and if I get the chance to, meeting up with some friends, although a lot of my friends are away at uni at the moment. And if not, during the week, apart from the weekend, and now we're on half term, I go to work for my apprenticeship, where I'm a TA apprentice. So that's some of the stuff I do when I'm not writing. So question 9. If you could show anyone, alive or dead, your work, who would it be? I'd have to say, for the alive side of things, it would be amazing to share my work with like any of my sort of authors that I admire, which is pretty much, so long as I enjoy their story, anyone who's been published, I'm just like, oh. But I'd be terrified. I'd like have to redraft it a million times, and it would be a very daunting experience. Although I don't know why, because I like to think a lot of authors would not be snobby and they'd be quite supportive and stuff. And on the not so happy side of things, I'd have to say my dad, because he was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia when I was around 6 or 7 years old, so he never even knew that I loved writing, and I always used to write, and he, obviously, because he was ill, he would have never even known that that was a big part of my life. So it'd be lovely to be able to share some of my work with him, and even get advice from him about things like, should I go for a creative writing degree and stuff like that. So, you know. And the last question, what was the most stressful thing you have ever written, or stressful for you to write? think sometimes any time I try to write something can be really stressful. I often find that I can knock out a first draft pretty quickly, unless in the case of a human's touch, which is just like my own fault. It's sort of like getting over these mental barriers and stuff like that. But stressful, I think sometimes when I can't get the words to come out, and like planning and having an idea, and I find it stressful when I don't have the time to write, or like I struggle to find the time to write, and then by the time I do find the time to write, my motivation just drops. I don't know why. I'm going to try really hard to get back into the writing swing of things, and I'm going to be uploading, which I've already recorded, I'm going to be uploading the other like 712 more things to write about prompts, so at least I'm actually writing. And yeah. Anyway, this was a really fun tag. If you want to have a go, feel free to have a go, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!